This week I learned the whole what am I reading, what am I going to read sections on these. They're going to be pretty redundant for December. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update about the midway point of December here. The 2025 is just kind of knocking on the door. And Christmas, man, Christmas is, I can't believe it's less than 2 weeks until Christmas. You got all your shopping done? I hope so. I hope so. So with this, guys, it's going to be very, very confusing because you're going to feel like you're watching something on repeat for the next couple weeks because when I get into what am I reading, guys, it's really not going to change. I mean, look at this. So I'm about halfway through Wind and True, which is a little ahead of schedule. I gave myself a goal of by Christmas. I knew I was never going to stick to the 1 day because it has 10 days in here. I knew I was never going to stick to 1 day per day kind of thing. I was not going to read this book in 10 days. It's just not possible, especially since I was going back to work. But page 690, and you're at halfway point. Sanderson has outdone himself this time. But hey, you got to buy a weight set for Christmas. You got Brandon Sanderson, and that'll get you some guns going here, guys. Look, with this, I'm enjoying it for the most part. Day 1 and 2 were, day 3 it really got better. Day 4 and 5, I like where it's headed now. And I'll be straight with my criticisms first, and then we'll get into what I am like. My criticisms first, kind of almost feel like Kaladin is a cameo character in this book. Yeah, I'm stunned. Almost 700 pages, and we've had this little Kaladin as we have now. Before you freak out, there's a lot of mileage left in this book, as you can see. So the back half can be really Kaladin heavy. But so far, I was actually kind of upset about that. I was kind of upset that we were page 300 before we got the first death flashback scene. I was upset when I started day 5 and the first word was Vinley. But again, these are just some things that come along with it when you got a book that's got this many characters. You're not going to see as many as you want, and sometimes you're going to see some that you don't. That's just kind of how this works. As for what I'm liking, the interludes continue to be amazing, which is weird because I remember the first couple books, the interludes were like, whatever. And I think starting with Rhythm of War, a book I was not wild about, although the interludes were some of the best parts of the book, I'm really liking the interludes here as well. You got Cosmere ties, you're getting POVs from characters you've never seen before, you're getting to know some things that you were not sure if they were really happening or not. But this book has a ton of mystery still. As I'm heading into the last half of this book, there's still so many unanswered questions about like, who's this voice in this character's head? I think I have my assumptions, but I could be wrong. Getting to see some of these things that we've known about history for a long time, like the Oath Pact, getting to see these things and be like, oh, maybe it's not quite how history would tell it. And I think that's something that Brandon Sanderson always plays around with and does very, very well. I was kind of disgruntled at first about Shallan's story, but I feel like it has kind of like took off now. Ghost Blood stuff that's I think it started in book 2 is finally progressing forward here now, and I feel like we're gonna get a real conclusion to that. But yeah, I'm really, really digging all of it. Aelin's doing stuff that I didn't expect, but I'm actually quite liking those sections a bit. But really, it's one of those where I'm like, I feel like this is going to have that moment where all of our characters do eventually come together for the big final act. And look, it's a Sanderlands. You know it's going to be great. And I've heard from a lot of people that are being like, yeah, the second half of the book, way better than the first. I'm liking the first half. I'm liking it better than Rhythm of War, but it's definitely not giving me those Words of Radiance, Way of Kings vibes yet. But it still has time. Like I said, I still got 700 plus pages to read. So, of course, there is time. And you can this is one of those where I think you can look back on and be like, oh, the first half of the book feels like a distant memory because the mile a minute that it's hitting in the second half. And that just seems to be Sando's style. So I'm expecting that. I did have one person on Instagram just blurt out a spoiler to me, and I'm hoping that maybe I misunderstood it. Let's just talk about that. I'll tell you if it was or not after it's done. But it's like, guys, a 1,400-page book comes out. On day 2, don't be talking about something that hasn't happened at the first 700 pages of the book. Come on. Anyway, I'm surprised as popular as this book is, as many people that are reading it, that there hasn't been more spoilers out there right now. But I just feel like most people in the Cosmere, they respect other people, and they don't want to ruin that for them. So I think it's one of those, mostly with book readers more than like jerks on Twitter that love to ruin TV shows for people, is like with this, I feel like readers, we get more fun out of watching people's reaction to stuff that we know that's coming. So we don't want to spoil it for them. So hopefully that is what is going on here with Wind and True. So yeah, about the halfway point, I'm happy, but I'm not ecstatic yet. So I'm hoping to get some more of some certain characters that I love and get to see them do more. And honestly, I could use a little less of alternate realms. I need some stuff actually on Roshar. Perpendicularity, the cognitive realms, all this. Cool. I've had enough of it. I'm ready to see stuff happen on the real world, and let's get this going. Let's get this final act going. Let's see this final battle here. That's what I'm hoping to see in the second half of this book. And then we'll see. We'll see. Maybe by next week I'll be closer. Who knows? Who knows how things are going to go? But like I said, my goal is still by Christmas. I'm doing it eyes only, guys. It takes a long time to read a book like this. Do I even need to do a what am I going to read? Clearly, this is going to be it for a while. Only other book I have earmarked for December is Lost Man's Lane by Scott Carson, but really just depends on how this goes. So shortest what am I going to read ever, I think. How about this week on the channel to get a couple of things out? I did my book haul for November. Now, that was one where obviously it was a little shorter than usual, but I was very, very ecstatic with what I got, and I love to show those off and tell everyone thank you for sending those things to me. Again, if you watch weekly updates, you know that for me, a book haul, you know what it is. You don't really need me to explain to you, but why I do enjoy doing it. You probably heard it a million times, but I'll keep saying it. It's my opportunity to say thank you to everyone who spares a thought for me. That's really, to me, is just completely bewildering still 5 years into this that anyone would think, hey, I want to send that to Mike. That's really, really awesome, and I do appreciate it, and I hope that gratefulness does show in a book haul video. I put out like a little short, which was just a clip of me talking about my book of the month, which was The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, and I just kind of isolated that and put it out because I still have a lot of people who don't watch the wrap-ups or don't watch weekly updates. What did you think of The Devils? What do you think of The Devils? So I put that out, and I'm going to be straight with you guys. I have never gotten the negative, pissy comments in a video like I have gotten in that one about people just pissed off that I got that book early. And I don't know what to tell you. It's not humble bragging. It's people are asking me. They want to know how the book is. And the publisher sent it to me early. Of course, I'm going to read my favorite fantasy author early. That's just how these things work. And it's not really trying to, hey, look what I got, ha, ha, ha. I'm not trying to rub it in anyone's face. And a lot of times I'll be like, it's just ribbing. I could take it, but it's just like some vitriol I was like not expecting at all. But more so it was the accusations of no matter how I felt about it, I was going to say it was a great read because I don't want to damage my relationship with the publisher or the author. Guys, you tell me you haven't been here for very long without telling me you haven't been here for very long. I've got books from authors, I've got books from publishers that I have not been high on. I will never, ever bullshit you guys about these things. I'm always going to be honest. I've been honest, much to my detriment, a few times. And I feel like if that's going to damage my relationship with an author or a publisher, so be it. I'm not going to lie. I will never, ever lie or bullshit to get perks or gain access to something. And maybe that holds me back in some places. That's okay. I want to go for being genuine on this channel. So if I tell you that I thought that The Devils was a great read, you damn well better believe I thought it was a great read. And that's, I can't believe I have to explain this 5 years into this. Some people can be new. That could have been their first experience with the channel. But no, that is the ultimate triggering, I think, for a book reviewer is to be told that they're lying just to gain access. There might be some people like that. I'm not one of them. So I'm not trying to dad you here or anything like that. That's just how I feel. That really annoys me. It really does. And I know it's very stupid to let people know what annoys you because then they got an opportunity just to do it whenever they want. But yeah, that's one of those where it's just like if someone calls you a nickname you don't like or something, I hate that accusation because if I was really that person, do you think I'd come up here and say that Name of the Wind, a lot of people's favorite books ever, that I criticize it? Do you think that's something that I would do if I just wanted to please everybody or gain access or get perks or something? I would never lie about how I feel about a book. And like I said, it's got me in trouble a few times. But again, that's just what I'm going to do. So anyway, The Devils, great read. And that's why I put that video out. Biggest surprises of 2024 is one I started doing last year and people seem to like it. Just where you kind of look back at some books that maybe you didn't expect to love as much as you did, or books you thought you were going to love and they kind of let you down a little bit. But also some happenings on the channel, like, some things that happen in a good way, kind of a positive one. This was kind of the positive one. The negative one's coming up soon. It kind of like a positive look back on some things that surprised me for the better, some things that did better than I expected, some changes I made, like I talk about like the lighting and stuff in here, about how some things, I never would have thought would have happened at the beginning of the year. And kind of look back in a nice retrospective and say, hey, here are the things that happened during the year that just surprised me for the better. And it's always fun to kind of look back on those fun things before you look at the bad things here in that counterpart video, which should be coming next week. Let's go ahead and talk about next week plans. Yes, that video will be called My Biggest Failures of 2024. Now, I know failure is a strong word now, obviously, but it's one of those things where as a content creator, we hold ourselves to a high standard. And sometimes we don't meet those expectations. And sure, that's textbook of failure. You know, I work in finance. Failure is just one of those things that comes up sometimes and you don't expect it. And I think that's something you can look at just like with the biggest surprises. That's why they were a surprise. These can be surprises on the other end, some things that you did not expect to happen that you definitely look back on and say, yeah, I should not have done that. That was definitely a failure. So some things as little as, I wish I'd have liked that book more, you know, something as little as that, but also some things we look and say, yeah, I never should have done something as stupid as what I did that got the channel hacked. You know, that was a failure, a big time failure that set the channel back 2 years, you know. So that's something I'll be talking about here sometime next week. And it's one of those where I like to spread positivity, but I also like to look at some criticisms and say, yes, I see them. I see them. And I know I shouldn't have made that mistake. It's okay. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. We base those critiques. I also will be talking about some of my favorite series, I guess you say, to least ranking. Ranking is something I don't do a lot. And usually people will be like, hey, you got to rank these things. I'll be like, hey, these are my favorites, no order, whatever, because I don't want the story below to be all about how I ranked something. Hey, you put this at number 1, this number 2. That means you think it was a better book. It's one of those things where just I don't like the conversation becoming about that. And I'm going to look at all 16 new series that I started in 2024, and I'm going to rank them from my least favorite to my favorite, just because you guys demand it. So I do like to listen to the audience, and you guys want me to rank these things. But to me, I'm like, with rankings, it just feels like it's just an opportunity for some people to, you know, build one thing up to tear something else, or tear something down to build the thing that they love up. And I try not to do that. But I'll do it in the most positive way that I can find here with that video next week. I'm going to try to get back on task here on Mike's Media Reviews. It's just Christmas time, guys. It just, you want to relax, you want to recharge the batteries a little bit, and me and my wife just never really got around to making anything. I think we at least need to start doing like a wrap-up video of some type. We talked about doing like a monthly wrap-up. We talked about the biggest stories around the media sphere for the month. I don't know. We're talking about that. I know we're at least going to be doing some Christmas stuff, because I think we got some really good arguments about, is it a Christmas movie or not? And that was one that my wife wanted to do last year, and I promised her that we would do it this year. So we'll try to get back on track over there on Mike's Media Reviews. Thank you guys for hanging on. We haven't like ditched it. It's just, you know, the holidays, things get away from you, and then you got a few minutes to yourself, and you just want to kind of veg out on the couch and watch Netflix. That's just what I did a lot this week, and that's what we're going to get into. We talk about TV and movie talk. With this, they put a lot of 30 for 30s on Netflix. 30 for 30, if you don't know, is like probably the best sports documentary series out there. They can do a sports documentary just about anything. And yes, guys, I'm 46 years old. I see a documentary, I'm probably going to like it. I'm really the target demographic of this, especially sports docs, because sports docs are so moving, so personal, so motivational to me. I think they're amazing. Some of the stories that you get from these things after the fact, especially when it's stuff you grew up watching. And I watched 2 basketball documentaries, and they were both stuff that was very, very personal, because basketball in the 1980s when I was growing up was on a different level than it is today. And I know everybody thinks that when they're growing up, everything is better. You look at the game then, you look at the game now. Look at the crowds then, and look at the crowds now, and tell me it wasn't a more exciting product back then. So with me watching these 2 NBA documentaries, I watched the one on the Bad Boys, which was the 1980s Detroit Pistons, and a team that a lot of people hated and I loved. I took a lot of heat for loving that team way back when. I'll talk about that in a second. And I watched the Lakers versus Celtics rivalry on 30 for 30, and that one almost 5 hours long. Somehow it still felt rushed. That's one of the nastiest rivalries in all of sports history. So these were 2 great documentaries, and I recommend them both for sure. But man, that Bad Boys team, Detroit, I took so much heat from my friends as a kid for loving that Detroit Pistons Bad Boys team that everybody hated. And I think it was because I grew up watching wrestling. I always appreciated the heels. For me, it was just like, hey, these teams are soft. You're bringing that shit in the paint? Yeah. Lambert and Mahorn are going to be dearly departed if you bring that shit in the paint. And that's how I loved that team. They were so gangster, and they didn't care. You know, that was Dennis Rodman before he was really, really strange, you know? So it's just a team that I loved. I loved watching them. And like I said, it felt like I had Ric Flair's 4 Horsemen on an NBA court. I loved it. I loved that team. And that was a really, really great documentary. And showing, yeah, they deserved a lot of the hate that you got. but I admired them for giving zero Fs what anybody thought about them. And then, of course, the Lakers versus Celtics. I mean, the first NBA Finals I ever watched was the 1984 NBA Finals. And there was an entire episode, hour long, just on that series. And yeah, to me, that was when the NBA just like exploded. The Magic versus Larry stuff, that was when it just exploded popularity, at least it come among my generation. That was when it became can't miss. You know, as NBA is fantastic. You know, that era, that was really, really great stuff. And that's a great documentary. And just, it's so amazing that 30-something, 40 years later, the players were talking and they still hate each other. So it's not one of those where like, oh, you know, if I had it to do now, I'd do it different. Nope, they're like, I do the same damn thing. So that's a real rivalry. Those two could not stand each other. And the fact that, you know, there have been separate documentaries just about Magic and Larry's relationship where you see it was like a begrudging friendship of the two of them, you know, because people always wanted to make those two rivals ever since they were in college together. Ever since they were in the high school all-star game, you know, they were just pitted against one another. And amazing, amazing stories in those two documentaries. And I hope you guys will check that out. Did you guys hear that Craven the Hunter is not tracking well at the box office? I'm just shocked. I'm shocked. $110 million budget. It's tracking for a $13 million opening. That's less than Madam Web, you guys. Apparently, this has Sony debating dropping the whole Spider-Man movies. Huh? Who could have seen this coming? Did you guys not pay attention to Morbius, Madam Web? And who asks for these movies? I love I love the Sinister Six. I think Craven's a very, very underrated Spider-Man villain. No one asked for a Spider-Man villain movie with no Spider-Man in it. I don't think they get it. And this is definitely one of those things where obviously Sony wants to use the property to keep the property. Just keep making the Spider-Verse movies. Those are pretty good. You're doing a good job with those. This needs to stop. These are money pits. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this. And it's just unbelievable that there's someone greenlighting these for hundreds of millions of dollars, realizing they're going to make no money. I mean, these are direct-to-DVD level movies, and I can't believe that they keep coming out at this dollar amount. At what point is someone held accountable and said, yeah, you're getting like a 10% return on these investments. You're gone. I can't believe some of these people are failing upwards like they are. But yeah, it's Sony. It's ridiculous. Stop. Just make Spider-Verse movies. That's it. That's what you can do. You can make Miles Morales a household name. You've done a really good job at that. Keep doing it. Keep doing that. Gaming talk before I go real quick. Just got to say, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This is the fourth Indiana Jones movie we always deserved. This went from one of those where like I thought this game was going to be a disaster to this might be my game of the year. It's really good, guys. If you love the original trilogy, and I'm sticking with calling it a trilogy, you will love this game. It feels like the original trilogy. It sounds like the original trilogy. The storyline, you feel like you're watching an indie movie a lot of times. I was very, very skeptical when I saw it was first person. I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But the first 10 minutes of the game, you're playing first person from the cold open of Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, maybe the best cold open in any movie ever. It's just so cool. I love the way this game sounds, the way it feels. Like when you punch someone, you feel it. It feels like you're punching someone. It's really, really impressive. Music is great. Is it Troy Baker, I think, that does the voice of Harrison Ford? Yeah, it sounds like someone trying to do a Harrison Ford impression. He does a very good Harrison Ford impression. I never once look at that game and feel like it isn't those Indiana Jones characters I love. It's got Marcus Brody in it. It's so good, guys. The storyline was excellent. Me and my oldest played through it in the first couple days. It was excellent. Had a great time with it. And really the only criticism I'm really hearing of the game is that it's a console exclusive. Well, I've learned that console exclusives only matter, apparently, when they're on Xbox. But the thing is, it's like, it's free for Game Pass. If you got Game Pass, get it. It's worth it for that alone. But with this, is like, it's a pre-release exclusive. So I think it's like 3 or 4 months it's going to be on PlayStation. So quit crying. And I think all the criticisms you see of it now, you won't see once it's available on multi-platform. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know, you're a bad sports team and you're in free agency and you got to pay that bad sports team tax. Basically, you got to overpay for a player. I feel like every game like this that comes out on Xbox, you got to pay that Xbox tax to prove that it's actually really good. Never understand you console wars people. If it's a good game, I want to play it. This is a very good game. And if you love Indiana Jones, man, you're going to be so happy. It's going to wipe away Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's going to wipe away whatever that Kathleen Kennedy mess was that came out. I don't even remember what was something about the Dial of Destiny. I don't know. Didn't watch it. I have no interest in watching them ruin franchises I love anymore. this will give you exactly what you're looking for. This is incredible, and I hope this continues that trend of saying, hey, if we handle the source material that people loved in a way that people that love those will love these, and we pay homage and respect to our legacy characters instead of trying to fix them, people will love it. And I feel like anyone who's really played this game has really, really enjoyed it, even with the Xbox tax, as I'm calling it, going forward. And yeah, pick it up. If you don't have a Series X, I understand. But if you do, get Game Pass and play this for free. It's awesome. It's really an excellent game. And right now I'm hard pressed to think of a better game that came out in 2024 than this one. It really is just that good. So that was my week, guys. What's your week shaping up to look like? I'd love to know what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you're playing, what you're watching. These are all fun things to talk about. So hit me in the comments, guys, and I will talk to you there.